It was the Thursday of a week-long summer camp for elementary school-aged kids. Earlier in the week, we had met at the church campus, making good use of their parish hall and sanctuary and playground. But on Thursday, we asked the parents to drop their kids off instead at a local regional park up the hill. It was bright and sunny out, beautiful, if a little warm. After rubbing down the little ones with sunscreen and making sure everyone's water bottles were filled, we gathered in a circle under the redwoods and oak trees to tell that day's story. Each day of the camp had a different Bible story that the kids would hear, reflect on, and do some craft around. That Thursday in the park, we worked with this story from Revelation, John's vision. And the campers staged the scene. We explained how a messenger of God offered this dream, this chance to see what it's like when everyone completely loves one another. There's a city that John sees, a beautiful, glowing city. And in it is the river of life. The river is so fresh and clear and refreshing, and you could just drink right from it. So 3 or 4 kids took up the edges of the long, shimmering stretch of blue fabric and became the river. And down the river, there is the most magnificent tree. One kid came to be the tree. But actually, it grows from both sides of the river. So we added another child standing on the other side, and they leaned in, joined hands to become one tree. This tree is tall and beautiful. It's very special because it grows 12 different kinds of fruit, and its leaves are for the healing of the nations. More kids joined, holding twigs, stretching out their arms to be the branches. When we regathered them into a circle, we asked, I wonder what it was like being part of that dream. I wonder if you've ever seen pieces of this dream somewhere. I wonder how we could make parts of this dream more real. Blessed are those who wash their robes, so that they will have the right to the tree of life. I, like so many of you, have been devastated by the news this week, by the state of our country. And it's not just this week, of course. It's the week before, and the week before that. It's anniversaries of police killings and mass shootings that changed nothing. It's reading the statistics on homicides and suicides and accidental deaths. Whatever shade your political opinion, we have a problem with gun violence in this country. And I am so angry. I'm enraged and also despairing. I feel helpless. Some days I just feel numb because it's all too much. And it is. It is too much. I trust that these feelings are holy reactions, righteous anger, and deep sadness at the loss of life. They reflect God's own pain over each beloved child. And numbness, often I hear people talk with guilt or shame in their voices about feeling numb to it all, but I've started to wonder if numbness isn't holy too, because it's the way God made our bodies and spirits to function, to protect ourselves from trauma or unending grief. Whatever you're feeling, it's probably justified. It's what you do with it, what action grows out of that response that matters. As I sat with my emotions and the lectionary readings for this week, I kept being drawn back to this tree of life that is for the healing of the nations. How desperately I want those leaves to rain down on us now. Where do we find that tree, those healing leaves? What does it mean to be one of those who have washed their robes? Yes, John's vision is about end times. And it is an apocalyptic unveiling of a different system, a new way of being that we can begin to step into here in our everyday lives. John sees in this vision a multitude of those who have come out of the great ordeal, those who by their life and witness have stood up to the death-dealing ways of the empire. We who long for healing and justice are to be instruments of it now. We are to enact the dream, to be part of it and look for it and find ways to make it more real. Gun culture in this country is intractable, but we must not resign ourselves to it as inevitable. What might it mean for you to wash your robes of this system, to refuse to abide its horrors any longer? How are you invited to become a branch of healing? We need work on all levels. National gun laws are top of mind, of course, and there are people writing and lobbying and working to hold our elected officials to account. And there are many, many other actions that are called for. Maybe you're called to work to strengthen state laws or local resources. Maybe you need to start at home and consider honestly your own relationship with firearms. Maybe you have family members or friends in Texas or other so-called red states that you could reach out to open a dialogue. Maybe for you to wash your robes, it is to divest from weapons manufacturers. Many of us in this parish and congregations across the country have been learning about systemic oppression and racism through the Sacred Ground curriculum. White supremacy is so deeply intertwined with violence and law in this country. Perhaps you can become a healing branch by learning, whether simply beginning that process or digging deeper. One of the beautiful things about this image is that the tree of life spans both sides of the river. We don't have to come up with solutions alone. We can reach out and join the work that others are already doing. Volunteering or financially supporting nonprofits that have been invested in this work for a long time, who already have a pathway mapped out. In the email that was sent out earlier this week, we included links to some of these groups, and we will post them again on our website and in this week's e-newsletter. Bishops United Against Gun Violence is a good place to start, and they point to other organizations and actions to join. Maybe your healing leaf is more personal. What is your response to anger or fear or aggression? Are you being invited to do some internal work? Maybe it's in your use of language. Everyone knows we don't really mean it, but so many of our expressions are rooted in militaristic imagery. From, I could just kill them when we're hurt or frustrated, to just bite the bullet in getting started on an unpleasant task. Or, I'm ready to pull the trigger on a decision. We regularly participate in normalizing the language of violence. What if we made a commitment not to be perfect, but that in our homes and communities, we will study the ways of war no longer? And while many of us are rightfully wary of hollow thoughts and prayers, true prayer is, I believe, the very root of the tree. Prayers of lament and despair. Prayers of grief for those killed and those who miss them. These matter. So too do prayers for perpetrators of violence. And even, here's one I struggle with, prayers for leaders and keynoters of the NRA. Prayers that seek God's justice. Prayer that opens our hearts to whatever change God asks of us in response is effective and true and worthy of our time and devoted attention. It's how we see and enter vision. We are invited to wash our robes and be people of the tree of life. We are to stand as witnesses against the destructive ways of the empire and instead to be for the healing of the nations. I wonder what it might be like to be part of that dream. I wonder if you've ever seen pieces of this dream somewhere. I wonder how we could make parts of this dream more